presentation or my first Kwanzaa celebration. I have never been to a Kwanzaa presentation before. So I had an opportunity to look up the 7 principles for what Kwanzaa stands for. And it was a great exercise for me because it gave me an opportunity to really self-reflect and to look at myself and say, am I implementing these 7 principles? And there were some areas I was strong, and there's some areas that I'm going to work on. So I want to thank Peggy Moore for inviting me and the Deltas. I'm going to share some poetry. I write inspirational poetry. And the 3 poems that I'm going to share, in some way, fashion, form, shape, they implement and reflect on some of the principles. So the first one is called A Legacy to Remember. And it incorporates family unity, purpose, and faith. And it's about 3 generations. It was a grandfather, a son, and a grandson. And the grandfather had a sense of responsibility. This grandfather, who actually happened to be a friend of mine, I wrote after he shared this experience with me. But what he was doing was he was pouring into his son and his grandson's life. And that is implementing one of the principles of Kwanzaa. Can you hear me okay? Or should I go to the mic? A legacy to remember. You see, there were 3 generations that went to the voting poll. It was a grandfather, a son, and a grandson. And it would become a lasting legacy. You see, the grandfather wanted to honor and represent his ancestors, so he went to the polls as a family. It was an election year of 2008. It would be a momentous and historic event. A man named Barack Obama was running for president. So to celebrate this occasion, the grandfather dressed in his best. He knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime historic event. You see, he couldn't believe it. He just couldn't believe it. A black man was running for president. He wore a navy pinstripe suit, a white shirt, and a power red tie. He wanted to honor his ancestors. You see, for years they couldn't vote. They were disenfranchised. He slipped into his black alligator shoes with a sense of determination and pride. He would proudly step for his ancestors in those black gators with each stride. He carefully put on his fedora hat and his gold and diamond cufflinks. When people would see him strut to the polls, the right to vote would make them think. A legacy to remember. Now, this country was desperately looking for change, a change to make life better. Barack Obama said, yes, we can, if we just work together. Millions of people, they wanted their voice to be heard, so they went to the polls to vote. It was phenomenal. Young, old, black and white, the entire world was taking note. A legacy to remember. Now, the grandfather wanted to teach his grandson the honor to vote, a right his ancestors never did see. You see, to vote is every citizen's right. Young people, it's your responsibility. Now, the grandfather stepped in the voting booth with a sense of accomplishment and pride. He paused, respectfully nodding to his ancestors with that fedora hat with the feather on the side. As he stepped out of the booth, he smiled and firmly held his grandson by the hand. He knew he just taught him a history lesson by voting and being a proud black man. And being a proud black man, a legacy to remember. The proud grandfather reflected on the struggles his people travailed, but he knew this time in history was appointed by God and would finally be unveiled. 3 generations of one family. What a lasting legacy You see, they didn't just go for a ride, but took a journey down the road of history. This was an overwhelming and triumphant victory. It was a phenomenal and momentous event. Barack Obama would be the 44th first African American elected president. A legacy to remember. Let's give